The Walking Dead is arguably one of the greatest still-running franchises, with many spin-offs including TV shows and video games that started back in 2003 as a comic book franchise developed by Robert Kirkman. However, I want to talk about the two biggest Walking Dead stories in this medium, and if you don't already know what I'm talking about, maybe this video isn't for you. Rick Grimes and Lee Everett. Spoilers.
Chill the fuck out, lady!
I'm Negan.
Two of TV and video games' biggest names in their industry, The Walking Dead had two fantastic plotlines with AMC's TV show and a story-based choice game that put Telltale games on the map. Today I'm going to talk about what made these two series so special, and why I love them both for their respective reasons. The Walking Dead TV show began back in 2010 on October 31st, where we would meet the man himself. Rick Grimes. Him. Portrayed by Andrew Lincoln, Rick Grimes was a role that took off his acting career, solidifying himself as one of the greats in the film industry. You might know Andrew from Love Actually, which is probably his other most iconic role. During the first season, we are in the eyes of Rick Grimes, as we follow his story into the undead world. Rick was a deputy sheriff who had been previously shot on duty and rushed into surgery by his partner Shane. Rick was then in a coma during the first days of The Walking Dead and had no idea what was happening around him. Rick would eventually wake up in the search of his family while meeting other survivors along the way. What's amazing about the first couple seasons of The Walking Dead is each character's fleshed out personality.
This isn't a democracy anymore.
From Shane's spiral into insanity after wanting what Rick had, to Merle being one of the funniest characters in the entire series.
It's just a matter of time before they come looking. I'll bake a cake with pink frosting. Would they like that?
To the antagonist making their jailhouse rock with a tank. The Walking Dead AMC stood out as something unique, as the comics weren't something everyone was familiar with or had access to. Creator Robert Kirkman expanding his storytelling to other outlets, being TV and video games. The Walking Dead TV series follows the same characters from the comics, but would deviate and bend the storyline into a fresh experience that could be enjoyed by fans new and old. Some of my favourite characters are Daryl and Negan. Daryl is the one that stands out here though, the man that stands by Rick's side no matter what, through everything they've been through. Daryl is arguably the character that changes the most in The Walking Dead. When we first meet him, he is aggressive and excessive with force, but throughout the show becomes more reserved and broken, showing the effects the apocalypse has. As for Negan, well, we'll get to that in a bit.
Let me in!
The Walking Dead not only had a fantastic storyline, protagonists, several duo-antagonists, and more, but also some insane villains. The governor, leader of the town Woodbury, a mental mass murderer, would butt heads with Rick and his prison group for the duration of season 3 and 4. The governor stood out because he was manipulative, he lived as a leader to the people of Woodbury and kept his dark antics to himself. We also had villains such as the cannibals, the junkyard people, and some would even consider Shane a villain for how his true colours bled out. In my opinion, however, nothing would even compare to the best antagonist in the show, Negan.
Where's Rick?
I'm
Don't care. Where's Rick?
Negan is a love-hate kind of guy with Walking Dead fans. He kills Glenn and Abraham during the first instance we see him, which turned a lot of people away from the show as Glenn was a fan favourite. In fact, his intro episode peaked as the highest number of viewers for the show, only to plummet an episode later. But he's so fucking awesome. He hates Rick and his group for killing some of his men at an outpost. He uses brute force to get people to do what he wants them to, seeing himself as a supreme leader. I don't think Negan is a good character, but I think his dialogue and the way he talks, on top of how he treats the rest of the world, makes him such a well-written villain. Someone that is an actual threat that if not handled properly becomes a danger to everyone, including his own. I think Negan is one of the best characters purely because of his redemption arc he has, and the fact we get to see why he turned out the way he did. However, there are a few reasons why people hate the new Walking Dead era. People hate that Negan killed off Glenn, which turned a few people away, whilst other people are annoyed at how plain the series got. Negan was eventually defeated, but they never killed him, which kept the series in a stale set of mind. On top of this, Carl, Rick's son, was killed off, one of the stupidest decisions in the entire series, and Andrew Lincoln and Lauren Cohen had also left the show, which were fan favourites.
I found him.
Rick Grimes was no longer the main character, his son was dead, and it just kind of felt wrong. I mean, the one Grimes family member for the last 3 seasons was Judith. Rick would eventually return in The Ones Who Live, but would never return for the main show. While the start of The Walking Dead was something to be treasured, the end of The Walking Dead fell flat due to circumstance and not much left to be done. I think despite Negan killing off Glenn, had AMC not killed Carl and sent Rick Grimes off a bridge, the show still could have had some of that old magic it once used to have. I also wanted to touch on each of the 3 spin-offs that take place after the main series and how I feel about them. I think The Walking Dead Dead City is a fairly okay series. It touches on Negan and Maggie's broken relationship with each other after the events of season 11. It also takes place in New York, which is pretty cool. The Daryl Dixon series I think is probably the best spin-off currently with 2 seasons. It takes place in France, so in an entirely new setting. And I also like the new characters it introduces as well. The Ones Who Live had a lot of potential. I love seeing Rick Grimes back on the big screen again. I thought that was really awesome. But the story just felt a bit off to me. The series is like 6 episodes long, and for 4 episodes it's just Michonne finding Rick and then both finding their love for each other again. And then the last 2 episodes they blow up this CRM that Rick had been trying to escape for like 6 years. I just find it hard to believe that Rick couldn't do in 6 years what they did in 2 episodes. Overall still a solid show however, and I felt it was very conclusive, just poorly paced. So we've discussed why AMC's The Walking Dead was such a hit. But what about Telltale Games? What happened to their story? Telltale Games were a storytelling video game company who didn't have many other series under their belt, so when presented with a chance to create a Walking Dead storyline with all original characters, they went all in. Lee, Kenny, Carly, Clementine, Lily, goddamn Larry. The Walking Dead Telltale began in April 2012 with the first episode, A New Day. The first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead is one of my favourite video games of all time, no questions asked. I love the characters, I love the setting, I love the atmosphere, and goddamn it, I love Kenny.
And I am a Christian man. You've always been there for me, Lee. Always had my back when it mattered. What kind of friend would I be if I wasn't there for you now? Bitten or not, I'm with you to the end. You can count on me. Go fuck yourself.
Kenny alone makes Telltale Season 2 of The Walking Dead something to care about because of how incredibly well written he is. He's hot-headed and witty with his dialogue. He's bitter because of this cold, harsh world, and he will do anything to protect the people that he cares about. However, Rick Grimes and his crew are not a part of the Telltale game series, rather they created their own story. This was so the developers could maintain consistency with the main storyline and focus on a different group of survivors that were not tied to Rick. The Walking Dead game follows Lee Everett, a making history professor in Atlanta, Georgia, who was convicted for strangling a man caught sleeping with his wife. We first meet him in the back of a police car just before the apocalypse begins, on his way to the same prison Rick Grimes was a sheriff at. However, the car steers off-road, in which he escapes after the car's crash. He then meets a little girl named Clementine, who had been left in Macon with a babysitter while her parents went to Savannah. Clementine is the backbone of the first season, as she is what makes all your decisions in the game matter. They meet new people along their path, Kenny and his family, Lily, Doug, Carly. They stay at a motel trying to build a fort against the undead, which backfires when 2 cannibal dairy farmers try to eat and kill all of them. They then travel across Atlanta in search of a boat to get on water from the undead. This inevitably leads them to Savannah, where Clementine's parents were. The story takes us to the city, where they can not only find a boat for safety, but also find Clementine's parents. What makes this game work is the decisions you make throughout the game. While Telltale are known for having your decisions not matter, which makes them kinda pointless, the choice of illusion is well constructed here. Your decisions won't change the outcome of the game, but they will change how other people see you. Kenny is the best example here, as if you are good to him and his family, he will stick by your side no matter what, whereas if you disagree and are rude to him constantly, he does not care what happens to you. Clementine is another example, especially later on in the season when she is kidnapped and you are tasked with saving her. From the first few moments of the game, however, we get a voice message that tells us Clementine's parents didn't quite make it. Later in the game, when Lee confronts her that there is not enough time to look for her parents, Clementine runs off, as she believes there is a man out there that has her parents safe and sound. This leads to Lee getting bitten, a death sentence on a timer, tearing down half of Georgia to find her and keep her safe. It doesn't help that someone also steals your boat on top of all that, leaving our team stranded in a city surrounded by undead. This all puts everything you know about storytelling in perspective, killing off the main character. In the final moments of The Walking Dead Season 1, Lee and Clementine are the only ones left. Everyone has either died or been separated from the group, the boat has been stolen, and they are both trapped in Savannah. This leaves Lee with a heavy decision: have his adopted daughter shoot him in the head, stopping him from turning into a walker, or leave him to die. The saddest ending you will ever know for such an amazing story. However, with the next 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, it never quite hit the same. Season 2, 3 and 4 had fairly interesting characters, and Season 2 brought back Kenny, someone we had assumed was dead, but ultimately didn't have that same illusion. Your choices still didn't matter, but they were so obvious after the first game, and that's why I believe the series fell off. All of Telltale's next games after The Walking Dead never really quite felt the same, which is what led the company to bankruptcy. Each game played the same, but not many had the same illusion that your choices actually changed the outcome. I think one of the main reasons that this works so well is because of Clementine. Throughout the game you are tasked with making a lot of hard decisions, all of which have an effect on her. She is your moral compass, and she is just a little girl, so your choices are entirely based on what it will do to her. But that is my my conclusion of the Walking Dead universe, ultimately both stories are fantastic, but they are not without their own flaws respectively. Which one is my favourite? I love Lee, Kenny and Clem so much, but Rick Grimes and Daryl Dixon will always be so awesome. Guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. If you happen to have learned anything from this video, or if this is the first video you've seen by me, please consider subscribing and leave a like, it's free, and you can always change your mind. For now, it has been your boy GameForOne, take care, and peace.
Hey, smoking up a J, ooh, ooh, ooh. Think I done fell into a maze, ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, but shawty, I'm okay, ooh, ooh, ooh. Probably 'cause no one in my face, ooh, ooh.